Hello and welcome to another episode of Molten Truth. This is your host, Zoey Michaels. I am here today with another fellow podcaster and author, Liisa. Welcome to our show.
Thanks, Zoe.
Yeah. So I guess I'd like the audience to know who we're talking to. So you wear a couple different hats. Do you want to introduce yourself and tell us about yourself?
Yes, I have a lot of hats. So, I was a high school teacher and I left in 2022. So I've been since then working for myself, which is amazing. I'm an author. I'm an author accelerator certified fiction and memoir book coach, host or co-host the Rekindle Creativity Women's Writing Retreat. And I'm the host of the Women Writing Podcast. Plus, I'm recently the president of the Toronto chapter of Sisters in Crime and various other roles that I take on because I have a hard time saying no.
Wow. So when I said you wear a lot of hats, I was making a huge understatement. Wow, I had no idea. I had read, your I'm going to call it a biography for lack of a better word, but the synopsis about you before our show. And if people haven't figured it out by now, we are flying by the seat of our pants. I don't do any pre-interviews with my people like I did when I first started my podcast when I was very green, and now I'm a little more seasoned, and I'm just like, let's just jump in feet first.
100%. It's so much more fun.
It really is. I think for the people listening as well as for me, because there was an advantage when you're starting out where knowing kind of what question to ask, kind of gain a sense of what direction, but then you get comfortable and it's like, yeah, we can do this. Let's just have fun.
You're totally right. I did the same thing. I used to have, well, I still have it, but I used to have a whole set of questions ready to go for my podcast guests. And then now it's like, well, I still have them, but I barely look at them. Usually we don't even talk about those things. I think it's just a security blanket that I know I have questions if I need them, but really just see where the conversation goes. It's way more interesting.
I think so too. If I know there's something interesting, and that was the beauty of a pre-interview, that, oh, that's a cool thing about you, or here's a key phrase you use that you might forget that I thought was fascinating, what to pull out. So that's the advantage.
That's true.
But, there's pros and cons to both, but I really do like just hopefully coming up with a question that's not going to be like, oh, why did I ask that? Oh, I'm sorry.
I actually like questions like that in a way because it makes you think about what you're doing or the book you're writing or whatever in a different way. Like sometimes the questions people ask are so like, oh, I hadn't thought about that before. And then you kind of have to think on your feet, which is great. Good for our brains.
Yeah, I do like that as long as I can remember to stay politically correct and, somewhat sensitive to the people's feelings or to the audience.
That's fair. That's why I'm like, have listeners.
Let me filter.
Yes. That's probably an important role.
I get a little practice with my day job, but even at that, oh boy. Yeah. So I was actually very interested just as when you shared, what you do. I didn't know there was such a thing as a coach for people who were writers, for women who were fiction writers. I'm like, wow, that's amazing. I could have used that. I can still use that. I'm like, you work with people only in Canada or what?
No, everywhere. Yeah, actually I have some American clients too. So I didn't know it was a real thing either. I left teaching in 2022, about 5 years before I was supposed to retire. Just after COVID, feeling like, okay, I'm good. I'm done. I've been teaching for 28 years. And I came across this program called Author Accelerator. And, you're working with people writing books. And I thought, this is like perfect. Like my teaching skills, my love of literature. I'm a writer, like all the things I love combine into this job. And I thought, oh, this can't be for real. Of course, when you find things on the internet, you have to be a little skeptical. And it turns out that one of my friends here in town, somebody I had met sort of in the literary community, I didn't know her too well at the time. She had taken the course and I said, okay, Dinah, tell me about this course. Is it for real? And she loved it. So I signed up right away and did the training. It's quite intensive. You have 3 practicums with clients to help them work through all stages of the process. And it was so fun. And so now that's what I get to do. I get to work with people who are working on their books and coach them through that. Like, it's not like you're telling them how to do it or what to do, but it's like you're really helping structure and be a project manager and be a cheerleader for them. And it's the kind of thing we all need when we're writing. In fact, when I'm writing, I often do hire a book coach for certain stages of the process. And it keeps me accountable. And I love a deadline. Like I work to
Yeah.
deadlines. Yeah, it's so
That is a
good.
good thing. Yes. It really is. It's so easy. We want the perfect story and we may be our own worst enemy.
Right?
Um, or we might be, oh, I can do this and maybe it needs some polishing. Sometimes you need a good critical eye to go, yeah, here's where you
100%.
could improve.
Yes. Yeah. There's always stages that some folks can do on their own and other parts where they could really use the help. And for me, what I really like working with is people who are kind of new to the process, who maybe haven't done much writing before or haven't written a book length project. And we work through the blueprint, which is sort of like fundamental steps to figure out before you start writing. And it makes the writing so much more pleasurable because you're not like, what is this story even about? Because you've already thought through that process. And so I really, really enjoy that part of it. And of course, we do editing, we can do developmental editing. Some people coach folks into querying and pitching to publishers. There's all kinds of roles a coach can play, and every coach has sort of a different um, thing that they are, really interested in, or maybe a niche. Like I have a friend here in Canada who writes romance, and she only works with romance writers. So, like, what a niche, right? If you're a romance writer and you want a coach, that's the person you go to. It's really
That's
good.
amazing.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, just because as challenging as the writing part can be, I find this part after you finish your project to be far more challenging.
Yes.
As
Yes.
a writer, I only want to write. I don't want to be
Yeah.
out there marketing. I don't want to
I
have
know.
to figure out who's going to review my book or beg. I
I
want to
know.
beg, going to friends and family, please read my book and put a review.
Please.
Please put, and out of, I know a lot of people, but I only got maybe 10 or 15 out of all the people I know to
Yeah.
actually put reviews.
Yeah.
And
It's
it's
tough.
such a struggle.
It really is. And I don't know how to, what the answer is. I'm going through that myself right now because I just had a book come out in the fall, like Water for Weary Souls. But I have a cozy mystery series coming out in the spring, and the first one comes out in March. And I'm doing exactly that, right? Like seeing if people will read an art copy, will do a review on Goodreads, will be willing to do an Amazon review when the book comes out. And it's a challenge because you have your group of people, you have your friends and family, and maybe you have a writing community. I'm lucky enough to have quite a few people in the writing community, but everyone's busy, everyone's stretched thin, everyone's volunteering and doing all the things. And even if they will down the road, like buy your book, they may not even review it because it's just one more step. So, shout out to all the people who are willing to review and be an ARC reader and do those things because it means a lot to authors. And I don't think I even understood how important it was,
It
especially for indie
is.
authors, right? It's
Yeah.
extremely important. When I was
Yeah.
like, I have two books that are traditionally published, and that wasn't really my role to get ARC readers. That wasn't my job. It was the publishers. So now that I'm doing these as indies, it's a whole other world. And yeah, so I really appreciate all the folks who are like, yes, I'm willing to read that book. And yes, I'll write a review because I know it will help the author. And it also helps other readers. Like, that's the thing I always emphasize. Readers can't find your book unless they know about it. And how do they know about it? Well, reviews, you know,
Yeah.
and it's just a circular
Exactly.
thing. So you're kind of helping other people who might like that genre too, or that kind of book, help find those books, right? So it's helping the author, but it's also helping other readers. And it's just a really nice thing to do.
Right,
Do it,
exactly.
everyone.
Yeah. Because what people don't realize is that we are fighting against an algorithm. We
Yes.
put our books on something like Amazon. Amazon will not even list our book for discovery unless it has reviews.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
vicious
It's
cycle. You
crazy.
literally put a book out and it dies because no one's reviewed it.
That's right. Yeah, it's really challenging. And that algorithm is constantly changing. So recently, and I'm not an expert on marketing or any of these things, but I'm trying to learn as much as I can. And recently, I came to understand that the algorithms in like Facebook ads and Amazon and different places are moving towards more of not the keyword search, like, I don't know, small town, cozy or romance or something, but more towards how a book will make the reader feel. Right. So now you're really, really thinking about what am I saying in my promotional material that is hitting the emotional appeal to the reader? And so it's just a different way of thinking about it. It's not good or bad. It's just that anyone who's been doing this for a very long time has, figured out the algorithm, and now the algorithm isn't the same at all. So,
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
in a way,
They're
me
always
starting
changing
out,
the rules.
yeah, exactly. I'm getting to learn the new rules, and the old rules I didn't really understand them anyway, so I don't feel too worried about it. But on the other hand, I'm not sure that I'll ever understand the new rules.
They're basically the insurance. They're insurance company.
That's right.
It's the same
Yeah,
thing.
it's true. No one understands. We're just
Let's
trying
change the
things.
rules every year just so we can keep you guessing.
Yeah, just keep guessing, keep trying things. That's all we can do.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that feedback. So, you mentioned you have a book that just came out?
Yeah, I have a book it's a historical novel, came out in October. It's called Like Water for Weary Souls. And so it's actually, so I write a lot of about Finnish immigrants because I'm a Finnish Canadian, and I'm really interested in my ancestors and the Finnish history, and like I'm first generation Finnish Canadian on one side and second on the other side. And so this book is set in the 30s in the Depression era in my hometown of Sudbury, which is in Northern Ontario. And I came across this really great nonfiction book about immigrant women in Canada by this researcher called Varpu Lindstrom. And she was writing about my hometown in the 30s during the Depression and what the women were doing. I'm like, that's the story. That's them. So what I found out was like the fun facts were, okay, so some of the women were domestic workers. That makes sense, right? Like there wasn't a lot of work for women, and so they would, go clean homes and, cook and do all those things. So my girls in the story, the two sisters, are domestic workers. But I found it really interesting because a lot of the women were owners of boarding houses. So they rented out rooms. Okay, good way to make money. Sure. And then some of them were bootleggers. Okay, that's fascinating. I like that. And
Right.
then some of them owned brothels. And I was like, okay. So these are not the stories my parents told me about the Finnish community when I was growing up. I didn't
Right.
know any of this. So of course, my young, well, they're not that young. They're in their early 20s. The two sisters end up living in a brothel because it's all they can afford. And one of the sisters disappears. Her body actually is found in Nolan Creek just after a late spring snowfall. And the other sister knows there's no way her sister could have crossed that ice, no, knowingly. She would never have done that. And so she thinks something bad happened, and the police say, no, it was an accident. It's just bad. She shouldn't have gone over the ice. And Essie's like, no, something happened. So there's an investigation into what happened to her sister, and all kinds of
Oh,
things get revealed. So it's historical fiction, but it's really a mystery.
it
And it was
sounds
so
like.
fun to write because I could go walk down the street of the places I was writing about. And if it was so bizarre to just feel like, oh, I'm just in a whole other time period and can feel like what it would have been like in that space, it was great.
That would have been such a great experience as a
Yeah,
writer to do that.
so
Uh,
good. Yeah.
Especially
It's
when it's a town that's familiar to you in the first place.
it's the
You
first
know,
time I've written I've written short stories set um in and around the area, and one of my books is half set in Northern Ontario and half set in Finland. So there's kind of like a dual timeline. But this one is solely set in that time period, in that place, in those neighborhoods that I know quite well. So it was really fun to do.
I bet. So I'm curious because this is something I've thought about a lot. I'm originally from Northwest Indiana. So
Okay.
when I go home, there was a time period in certain towns it's still that way where nothing's changed. It's very much the same. And had that feeling that like I really am going back in time to when I was a
Yes.
kid. And I
Yeah.
love that. It was one of my favorite things about going back home.
Amazing.
Of course, here we are in 2026, and one of the towns has blown up like crazy. It was discovered by the
Yeah.
Chicagoans, and you know,
Right.
with
Starts to
progress
balloon.
comes a lot of change.
Yes.
So it's not quite that same feeling. So I'm curious, this town that you're writing about, where this story is
Yeah.
set, has it changed a lot
Yeah,
from
it
when you were
has
there?
grown. Like it was a mining town at the turn of the century, and it kind of grew into small sections here and there around mining. And so the downtown was, I mean, not the best place that they chose it, but anyways, so there are and we were, I think we were guilty of taking down some of the historic buildings too in the downtown core, which was such a shame because there's some beautiful buildings and they're gone. There are some that remain. And this Donovan neighborhood that I write about, what I loved about it was so many of the houses have been there for decades and decades and decades. Like they really look like out of the 30s, 40s, and 50s. So there's aspects of it that feel like you're walking back in time. And then you'll see like a record store, which is funny to have a record store because that's also retro too. But or like Tuco's Tacos, the like little the restaurant. And so there's different things there now, but the core streets are the same, and so many of the houses are the same. But I totally agree with you. Like where I grew up in Sudbury, that area used to be very quiet, very green, not a lot of traffic. And now there's a strip mall and a Walmart, and the traffic is crazy, and there's all these lights. Like it's just, you can tell that the city has expanded outwards. So it does maintain some of the feel, but it's definitely changing and not quite the same as when we were kids, but
No, no.
still.
Sad, but that does happen. Although, boy, my imagination's firing. That wouldn't be cool. Like to have a story about time converging on this one street where there's old time and if future and past meet, and where you could like step into a door of a store and suddenly you're in the future, or
Amazing.
then step into this one house and suddenly you're in the past. I mean, my mind just
So
going wild
fun.
with all these ideas about
I love
that.
that. So you're totally a writer because that's how the brain works, right? The creative idea is like the seed of an idea. And then you start to be like, oh, I could do this and I could do that. Can just see you like, okay, I need to go write that down.
Seriously, I was thinking about that.
Yes, yes, so great.
I probably will. I'll probably go back and re-listen to this episode. Like, what was my idea? And
Yeah,
I'll
what
go
was that
jot it
idea?
down. I keep a little like on my phone, a little memo thing of all my
Yes,
little ideas, and hope that
you
I write
need to
down
do
enough to
that.
do that.
It's a great trick because like or like a voice memo or something. I had finished a book and I was thinking about like what do I want to work on next? And this was a couple years ago. And I went back through those notes that you're talking about, and I was just scrolling, and I had written the word sointula 3 times, and I'm
Hmm,
like,
what's that
huh,
mean?
okay, so sointula, and I wrote a book about it, but it's not
Ah,
published yet. It's still it's not done. I have some work to do on it. Sointula is a socialist, how do you say it? Just a utopian society that was created in early 1900s in BC on an island called Malcolm Island. That lasted for about a few years. And then, of course, as these socialist utopian societies do, it just fell apart. So I was so fascinated by it. I went to Malcolm Island last August to do some research. And it was just the most beautiful place. Like I just wanted to stay. I thought, okay, I totally understand why these people came here and didn't want to go.
and
So
where is
I've
that
written a novel
located?
about that, and it's not done. So I mean, I'd actually like to go back to Malcolm Island and do a little bit more research and talk to folks a little bit more. But
This
yeah,
sounds amazing. But
yeah,
I've never heard of Malcolm Island. So where is that? Where in the world is Malcolm
yeah. So
Island?
Vancouver, so British Columbia, western side of Canada, and then there's Vancouver Island, which is off of on the coast, and then you have to go drive all the way up Vancouver Island, and then take a ferry across to this little island called Malcolm Island. So it's
Okay,
like
so it's over
the
there.
fact that these Finnish people, some of them came from Finland, some of them were already in Canada, and they decided we're going to just go create our own community. We're going to run it how we want to run it. We're going to like make ourselves self-sufficient. It's going to be great. And they all just like found their way to this tiny place and set up camp, and they created a
Wow.
society there. And what I found really interesting when I was talking to people last summer, one man I met said, well, like the idea of Soinsula died, like the whole idea of this Finnish socialist utopia that disbanded, but people stayed. And they created a version of that, like where people helped each other, people looked out for each other. Um, Still on the island, there's like a coffee shop, a co-op grocery store, and a gas station. Oh, and I think there's a burger joint that like in a little stall. Like that, and then there's a bunch of artists here and there, and like you can go and borrow a bike and ride around the island. Like it's like it's not the vision that the original people had, but he said there's sort of a spirit of independence and but also of helping each other. I thought that's really
Right.
cool, right? Like
Yeah.
that's really cool. So I've written a story
Wow.
set on that island during the time of that movement, and it's not real characters; it's all just fictional characters, but really
Sure.
fun to explore how you can use fiction and
History.
history together.
Absolutely. I had no idea there had ever been such a movement or anything
Yeah,
like that. So
I
that's the
know.
thing I love about historical fiction is that yes, it's entertaining, but there's also that element of history that makes you curious to perhaps research the actual history, or
Yes.
at least
Yeah.
you learn a little something in the midst of
Yeah.
all the story.
That's right. Yeah, that's what I feel too. Like when I'm reading from other countries about things that have happened in the past, it just opens your eyes to different historical events and how people and places were shaped. So I just love that stuff and I can't help writing about it. Like even in like Water for Weary Souls, there was another example of a socialist utopian society they were trying to create. And this one, strangely, was in the Soviet Union, and there's a place called Karelia, and the Soviet Union encouraged Finnish North Americans to come there, and they could get educated in Finnish, they could raise their families in Finnish, but they wanted workers, right? They wanted people who had skills, people who could like build up the society. So they were kind of like saying, yeah, yeah, you should come. And people from Canada and the US went, and it didn't turn out very well, as you can expect, right? At first, they're like gung ho, and then slowly things get worse and worse and worse and worse. And so, I do have a character in this story who makes that leap, and he says, "I'm there's a depression here. Like things are bad. Work isn't good. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go try my luck out there. We're gonna start something new. It's gonna be great." And his fiance stays behind, but she's going to come later when he has enough money to send for her. And the letters keep coming, well, they start to slowly not come, but they start out optimistic and slowly get worse and worse and worse. And like the neighbor is arrested, and the terrible outcomes that happen as a result of living in the Soviet Union in the 30s. So it's yeah, I just love taking those kind of historical facts and saying, okay, what if so and so went there? What would that be like? How would that have been for them? And it kind of reflects the type of things we're seeing in the world, right? Like we think that happened in history, but
History
history
repeats
repeats
itself.
itself. Yes,
Yes, it
exactly.
does. And those who don't learn history are doomed to repeat it, as the
That's
saying goes.
right.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
Exactly.
I'm curious because you've mentioned the 30s quite a bit. Is that your favorite time period to write about?
Well, I hadn't thought of it that way. But apparently, so let's think about this. I wrote a book about the first book was called Surviving Studhof. It was about my dad. He was 16 when he was he was a Finnish merchant marine sailor, and his ship was arrested, and they were sent to a concentration camp. So like 90 Finnish sailors in Studhof concentration camp in Poland. So that was in the 30, like that book starts in 38, I think, and then goes on to 1945. So I think I would kind of got the bug when I was working with him because I was doing a lot of research about Finland and of course the concentration camps of the time period. And then the second book, I would he inspired me actually because he was telling me about the Winter War, which he was a young kid then, like 10 or 11, and the Winter War was between Russia and Finland, so Soviet Union and Finland, and it very much like the Ukraine conflict, right? And he was
Right.
telling me about what that was like and the bombs coming down on his hometown. And I was wondering about the women, what they were doing during the war. So I wrote a book about a woman who's like involved in the Winter War, and the other half is more contemporary, let's say, sort of 1980, I guess, not so contemporary, in Northern Ontario. So yeah, actually, there's sort of a trend here. And then of course, like Water for Weary Souls was in the 30s here in Northern Ontario. And then I have, oh goodness, you're Zoe. I don't know why I never thought of this as being a thing. So I have another book that is quote unquote done. As you know, it's kind of a stage, but it's not ready yet. It's set during the Winter War, also about a Finnish war child, and that's also in the sort of the 30s. So apparently, I have a thing for that time period. The
I'm not
Zoe
with
book
that.
is a little earlier, though. It's 1900s and current
Absolutely.
day. So there's a dual timeline. So 2026 and sort of 1902 or 1903. So I've really pushed myself a couple of years the other way with that one. Oh,
Sure.
I
But
hadn't
it
even
sounds
thought
like
about
that's kind
Zoe.
of your niche there that you really enjoy researching and writing about.
I might just have to like pick a whole other time period and go, okay, I need to do that now because we've done the 30s. 30s, check. 40s, check.
But if something works for you, I mean, look at Philippa Gregory. She's all about,
Yes.
the Tudor line and just that lineage, and that's her niche, and that works for her.
Yes.
I told you
Yeah.
before we started
I love
recording how
those.
much I used to love watching in my dreams, reading Victoria Holt books.
Yes.
In fact, my favorite book of hers actually introduced me to the life of Marie Antoinette in a way that I never would have thought.
Right.
And I was amazed at how closely the history that she wrote in a fictional way mirrored the true history that I later decided to
Yeah.
read because I was so
Yes.
curious about
Yes.
her as a person.
I know.
So think of the influence you would have with your books and your niche on people who were curious about this, the Finnish culture and this period of history.
Yeah, it's true. I'm the same. I feel the same way. There's so many of these historical writers who introduced me to topics in history that I just like. I love the Tudors. I just love the Tudors. And I want to
They're
know all the things.
fascinating.
Yeah, fascinating. I want to read all the books and I want to watch all the documentaries and whatever there is. I just find it fascinating. And I think I too was influenced by a novel before I was, read anything that was, Britain like historically accurate. But novels can do a really good job of introducing you to a time period and making it alive because they fill it with characters that are fun and interesting and like us, like we feel like we know them, and that's
Exactly.
engaging.
It makes me wonder, these history teachers who repeat these history lessons, the same lessons year in, year out. I mean, I think we've studied American history the same information 4, 5, 6 times,
Right.
almost exactly identical information. And how much more interesting it could have been had it been wrapped in the candy of a fictional story.
That's true. I know a history teacher here in town, and so I remember her telling me one of the assignments was for the students to write a letter from the perspective of World War One soldier, and then or they could choose maybe a nurse, or like there's a bunch of choices, but it was so they were writing these fictional letters, but she said that's how they got in their heads and understood, like not just facts and numbers and places and dates, but like how it felt
Boring.
to be there. Yeah, and it really personalized, and I thought that's really a great way to combine fiction and history so that you know the students can really feel and connect with the people of the time period. That's
Exactly.
good.
Because
Yeah.
isn't the
There's
point to
ways.
make them love it, to not,
Yeah.
not go, yuck,
Right?
history and I have to learn dates, but to
Yeah.
instill that desire to learn more. That's
That's right.
should be the goal of every teacher, not necessarily to
Agreed.
pound information, but to instill a
Yeah.
love of learning
Yeah. A
so that
love of
it's a
learning
lifetime
and
journey.
ability to, yeah, absolutely. And the ability to think critically about the information they're receiving. Because that is another part of history, right? That the conqueror writes it. So, like,
So true.
what don't we know? Like, okay, we got that part of the story, but what's the part that we don't know? And so that gets slowly revealed when other people do the work. And so even history, like science, sort of changes over time when we know better. And like it's a continually learning process. So that's why I love history for that reason. Like it's just it's fascinating, and yet they're still discovering artifacts, or they're or finding out more about this society, and then they can say, okay, well, we got this right, but this part, like, this is new information, like we didn't know. It's
Or
great.
exactly. People who existed that, were maybe mentioned, but people were like, that's not right. That person never existed until they found an artifact. Oh, this person did in fact exist.
By the way, yes,
Just so you know.
I love
Yeah.
that they found Richard III's body in a parking lot. And they found his body, and they've always, Shakespeare described him as having like a hunchback, like his back was rounded, and people thought that, oh, maybe he was described sort of deformed because they wanted people to understand that his mind was sort of off and deformed too. Well, it turns out he actually had, I want to say scoliosis, I could be wrong, but some deformity of the spine. And when they found his body in a parking lot, like under the parking lot, they were able to identify like what actually he had. So it's fun to kind of think of like the fiction, like the plays, and then the real person and what we know, and then find out, oh yeah, we were right about that, or no, we were totally wrong.
Right, exactly. It is fascinating, but I know I didn't even know that his body had been found, let alone under a parking lot. That's news
Yeah,
to
yeah,
me,
yeah.
but
I think you can find some footage of them like digging up the parking lot, which is so strange. Like, it used to be a field.
right,
Now like cars have been
right.
parking over him, the king, for how many? Oh god.
That is surprising. You would think, I mean, for the way that, Great Britain always, valued its kings,
Yeah.
its royalty, that's surprising that he wouldn't have been buried
Yeah, I don't
someplace
know if he was buried
else,
there initially. I don't know.
dropped in
Was it because he
battle.
was disgraced and they, I don't know. That's now I'm going to have to go do some research, Zoe.
I think
I
I'm,
need to
I'm
know more about
curious enough
Richard
that I might
III.
have to. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yes.
That's right.
So I'm very curious. Our audience can't see our names. I don't know why Riverside even has that feature, but your
Right.
name is spelled with two I's. It's Lisa with
Yes.
two I's. So is that a Finnish thing? Is that,
It is.
or
Yeah, really,
okay?
really common. My first name is actually longer than that. It's Annalisa, Annalisa. So that's a pretty
Good.
common Finnish name too. And my grandmother was an Annalisa, so that's why I got her name. But we have other Annas in our family, so then I ended up getting Lisa all the time. But my cozy mystery series, I've decided to use a pen name. So I went with AL, which is Annalisa, and Jensen, which is my husband's last name. So I thought, okay, I can use a pen name, but still make it authentically mine. So that was kind of a fun,
Good. Yeah.
fun way
I'm a
to
big
figure out a
fan of
name.
pen names. The fact Zoey Michaels is my pen name, and I just for
Okay.
continuity use it across my podcast and
Everywhere.
such. But
Nice.
I like that
Perfect.
it affords a level of privacy, and at the same time, you've got kind of a brand that you're building under
Mhm.
that name, and
That's right.
people have
Yeah,
different reasons for
I
them.
I think there's lots of reasons for pen names. And I've had lots of people ask me about that because I have, 3 books out under Liisa Kovala. And now I am going to have these cozy mysteries under my pen name, A.L. Jensen. But like in my mind, they're so different, right? Like, so anyone coming for a cozy mystery, or yeah, like coming for a cozy mystery and then picking up a historical novel would be like, oh, that's not what I was looking for, or vice versa. So I thought it was just better to like, let's make the cozies their own thing. Let's, and I found that freeing. Do you find it freeing to write under a different name? Like almost you could
I
take on a different
do.
persona. Yeah, it's
I
so
think
good.
so. Yep. As Zoe, I'm a
Like there's
much
some freedom
more
there.
maybe gregarious type of person, much more inventive. My
Yeah.
in my alter ego, I'm a little more reserved, shy, whatever.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I think that's a great reason for having a pen name. Like even under my regular name with the historical, I feel like that's like the historical novels are a little bit more serious. They're dealing with some pretty heavy themes like loss and death and some pretty love and relationships and various things. But the cozies are light, and yes, there's a dead body, but there's there's like they're fun and light and don't take themselves so seriously. Like it does feel like two very different things. for me as a
Hmm.
writer. And I like them
Yeah.
both. I love them both, but it's just like having the pen name lets me go, okay, this is the hat I have on now. And I'm going to, you know, flop, like you say, that alter ego almost.
Yeah, I think one of my biggest regrets, because I've got 3 or 4 books out. Technically, I've got 4 books out. One of them is very different from the others.
Yeah.
And I kind of wish, because it's such a serious book, and it's more kind of where fiction and nonfiction blend kind of thing.
Yeah.
One of my biggest regrets is not putting a different pen name for that book, because it is so different from
Okay.
my others. So I do think what
Right.
you're doing, separated to, I think it sounds smart
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah, it's well, and this okay, this is just again has nothing to sort of promo, I guess, but like I created an Instagram page just for AL Jensen. And I have so much fun there because I just want it to be pretty and I just want it to be lighthearted. And I don't post anything else, just the kind of like visuals I really love. And it's like all on brand for the cozies. Whereas the other page is a little bit more mix of things that page. And I don't know, I don't know if I have that many followers on that AL Jensen page, but it doesn't matter because I'm enjoying it so much. Like, it's
And they'll
great.
come with time,
That's right.
you know.
I hope so. They'll find it if they're into that stuff. But for me, it's just kind of a pleasure, you know, it's kind of a creating something for it is just nice and lighthearted. So I think there's something to that, right? The pen name and the what you're trying to go for in the books, and then creating the promotion around that can really work if you're leaning into it.
Exactly. Sometimes we think with our budget more so than with our long-term plan. Um, because I let someone talk me out of doing the second pen name, and ultimately the reason I decided was from a budget standpoint. In the end,
Okay.
it didn't make a difference. In the end,
Right. Yeah.
I'm no further along doing it the quote
Yeah.
unquote cheaper way than I would have been had I just done what my
Right.
gut said to do in the first place.
Yeah. Sometimes
So
we do need to listen to our gut, eh? Like just what feels right for us. Do you think
yeah.
you're going to use another pen name down the road?
I hope that I never have to write a book as serious as that one was. I
Okay.
prefer to live in the lighthearted or the more imaginative world.
Yes.
I do tend to mix genres. I have some romance. I have some that are kind of sci-fi that I intend to write.
Yes.
Those I think I still will stick with Zoey Michaels for that. But that one book that was super serious, I really wish I could push it into
Yeah.
another name. And maybe,
Right.
wait, maybe I will. I'll have to ask and
Maybe you
see if that's a
can. Yeah,
possibility,
that's
because
true.
I sure
Yeah.
would like to separate it out from my fictional books.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be interesting to see if you could make that happen and how
Yeah.
that would go for you. Hmm.
Yeah, I can't
Cool.
imagine it would be a problem since I'm the same person. If
Yeah.
you were writing under someone else's name or borrowing someone else's
Yes.
idea, one author trying to
Exactly.
promote someone else's work. But I would think, since you're the same person, just using a different pen name. But
Yeah.
I guess I'll have to ask
Yeah.
the expert, someone like Mickey or something. Hey,
That's
Mickey, what do
right.
you
Yeah.
think?
Yeah. What do you think?
For those who
Exactly. You
don't
might know.
know, Mickey is a publicist that we both have
Yeah.
connection to. Great guy.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure Mickey
Yeah.
told me not to have a pen name. But I think that might have been because for promotion purposes, it might get confusing for folks to with having the two names. But I don't know. I didn't feel like it was going to be a worry. Poor
Yeah.
Mickey.
Well, I get you. I'm sure people look at my Facebook pages and go, okay, here's this name with your picture, here's this name with your picture. But
Hmm.
I do have the link
Yeah.
between them that kind
Oh,
of like,
nice.
oh, okay, this is solid. This
Yeah.
is
They'll
not
figure
someone
out.
trying to pretend to be someone else kind of a
Yeah,
thing.
100%.
And
I think people are pretty
great.
savvy too. Like readers know that we do this, right? They know that, oh, the same author can write different genres and different names and then they'll pick up the
Exactly.
ones they like. So great.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think people understand
Exactly.
it. But it is a choice. I mean, there's not a right or wrong answer. It's just what we personally as authors want to do, I guess.
I think so. Yeah, we're not the first ones to ever do it. I mean, writers
Yeah,
for many eons have had more than one name. So, yeah,
that's
why not?
right. Yeah. Well, at least
So,
we're in an era we don't have to use like male names. Like remember George is George Sanders? I forget. There's a bunch of women whose names were George. George Eliot was another one. They couldn't even write under their name. So we get to pick as many names as we want.
That's true. So true. Yeah, the women who dared to write under their own name took the chance of not being noticed, or maybe their work being appreciated long after they were gone. But
Right.
yeah.
That's right.
So you have another book coming out, what, in the springtime, you said?
Yeah. So the first book in the Hygge House Cozy Mystery Series is coming out. It's called Hygge and Homicide. So Hygge is a Norwegian and Danish word. I don't know if you've heard it. It means like coziness. And it's that that vibe of like putting on your woolly socks in front of a fireplace and putting on a candle and just getting a blanket and just the vibes of really like that kind of cozy atmosphere. So I love the idea of, so this time it's not, my main character, Minna, is half Finnish, half Norwegian, and her best friend is Swedish. But there's like people from all different communities in this small town. But I love the idea of kind of leaning into the Nordic stuff that, so I've been kind of with the historical looking at Finnish characters. Now I'm like, okay, I'm going to expand out to the Nordic and Scandinavian countries and pull in different traditions and cultural things and food and design and all of those things that I love, and have my main character, her job is to be she's an interior designer who specializes in Nordic design, which is really quite a phenomenal design. And her best friend Christy is an event planner. So they bought this old house together and they're renovating it and making it into an event center and also like kind of B&B. And it's so fun to write because like, you think it's going to go great. And then they find a dead body. And now she's going to have to figure out how to solve this one. And it's just so fun. I have 6 books planned in the series, and it's just delightful. Yeah.
Very cool. I can't wait to hear how that works for you, and if you want
Yeah.
to come back and talk to us
I'd
more about it
love
after it's
to.
out, I'm sure we
Yeah, that'd be
can make
so
that
fun.
happen.
That'd be
I mean,
great.
I think you and I can spend another couple hours easily talking
Right?
even tonight with all the stuff that
We have a lot in common.
well, it's just fun. It's just
Yeah.
fun. So, as we get close to the end of our program here, I had forewarned you that each guest leaves a question for the next guest, the random question. So, the last guest asked the question: are you a Star Trek fan or a Star Wars kind of fan, and why?
Yes. And yes. So I was 5 when Star Wars came out, and my brothers went to see it, and my mother wouldn't let me, and I cried. It was 1977, and I remember very vividly crying in the kitchen because I wasn't allowed to go see Star Wars. So then when I was finally able to go see Star Wars, I just ate it up. Love all of them. And then I was just the right age to be watching Star Trek on television, and I remember watching all the originals and then watching every like version that came out after with all the different captains. And so I have to say I'm kind of I love them both I just love, I mean, I don't write science fiction, but I'll watch it forever. I'll watch all the movies, all the TV shows, anything that's like sci-fi. I'm there for it. Would I ever go to space? Not a chance, but I will watch other people do it.
I get you. It's nice to be cozy and comfortable here on the Earth, but
Yep.
the imagination. There's so much fuel for the imagination when you
Love
bring
that.
in the idea of space travel.
Yeah. Right. Well, and I should say I will never not. I say I won't write sci-fi, but when you say you're not going to do something, inevitably someday you're like, oh, I should do that thing. So I'm going to say it's possible. I might someday, just not right now.
Never can tell
You never
where
know.
inspiration strikes, right?
Right.
So, do you have a question you would like to pose for the next guest?
I don't think, okay, my question isn't quite so fun as that one, but I really love that question. My question for the next guest is what gives them the most joy in their life? And what is the thing that they would most like to change?
is the thing you would most want to change? Yeah, I like these insightful questions. I like the fun question. I like the whole gamut. I just love the
I just love the
randomness.
concept. Yeah, so fun.
You
I
just
was
never
not
know what
expecting
somebody's gonna
that
say.
question. Yeah, I was not
Right?
expecting that one, and it was good.
Yeah, it was. She was really thinking. She was like, "It's going to tell you what kind of person and
I
how
know.
they answer, what kind of person they are." Because I
Which,
mean, those are
yeah,
two very different genres of
they are.
space. You
I
know
know, but you can't
how.
even not love them both. I don't
Mhm.
know. But to be fair, I was also a fan of Battlestar Galactica. So I
Yeah,
don't know what
I
that says
watched it
about
because there
me.
was nothing else on TV, but I never really loved Battlestar Galactica.
I think you're probably right. At that time of day, on that, like we had three channels and one of them was French, that's what was on. So you watch it. But I think there was that little furry character that was cute and,
Yeah,
whatever. It was,
yeah,
they're all just fun. And I just love people's imagination when they can say, okay, let's put you in a whole other time period in a total different planet on a spaceship and let's see what happens.
it's true. I
Right.
mean, you can't fault that. I mean, just the fact that they even, we went from a generation that grew up watching westerns to suddenly we were out in
Yes.
space. I mean, that
Yes.
was a huge leap. I mean,
Yeah.
talk about diametrically opposed genres.
Yeah, 100%. But if you look at what like those westerns and how those people were like trying to go for justice and be heroes and solve problems, they were doing that on the spaceship too, just in a whole other way, like with aliens or whatever. So there's all like even though there are different places, like story is story is story, right? A story just
Mhm.
tells us about who we are as human beings. So
True.
maybe that's why I love
Well,
stories so much.
and I love that they even acknowledged that. There was that time when Spock's character talked about cowboy diplomacy. They
Yes.
acknowledged the whole
Yeah, a little
Western in
nod.
space type of thing.
Yeah, so
Um,
good.
yeah.
Amazing. I love
For that
that.
matter,
Yeah.
did you ever see the series Firefly? Because I mean, if ever there was a Western in space, Firefly totally
No, but I've
won
recognized the
that.
name, but I don't think I've
Yeah.
seen it.
It's actually
Okay.
pretty interesting, and it was
Okay.
full on cowboy in space type of mentality, and they brought that flair into it. It's worth
Amazing.
going if you ever want to watch something that's
Okay,
like
I'll have to look for
cowboys
that.
in space.
I'm I'm watching currently, I think it's called The Expanse. I just
Okay.
started it the other day. I think it's on Prime. And I'm really enjoying it. I'm like season one, and I think there's 6 seasons. So everyone's like, "Where have you been?" I didn't know, but it's good. Like it's interesting to see how different the Earth and Mars and different places are populated, and the conflicts between the places, and it's quite well. The sets are great and well shot. So, yeah, it's sort of the next level. Like if you go back to the old Star Treks, the original ones, you can go, oh, okay. I forgot how like those sets were pretty rudimentary.
Yes,
Now there's
so
bigger
true.
budgets.
So true. The stories were still good though. I
Yeah,
mean,
they
when you've
were.
got a solid story, despite the budget, despite what they
Yes.
had back then, and it's still
Yeah.
on air all these years later, new generations looking.
Right.
I mean, that's pretty
Yeah.
fantastic.
It's pretty
Yeah.
amazing. But like you say, it's all about the story and it's all about how we connect as viewers or readers to the story. And, it tells us about ourselves as human beings and how we interact. And it goes back to that historical fiction that we were talking about earlier. Like we learn from that. We learn from these stories too. Um, and I mean, we don't always listen to the lessons. They are there to
Yes,
be had.
absolutely. Well, for that matter, just because a story doesn't fly, so to speak, at the beginning, because Star Trek: The Original Generation only got 3 years. Thank you, Lucille Ball, for those 3 years, by the way.
Right. Yeah.
You know, the fact that it came back, reimagined, bigger and better, what, in
Yeah.
1980,
like that.
maybe
Yeah, somewhere in the
something
80s.
like
I don't
that.
remember the year.
I mean,
Yeah,
but just yeah, just that it got found new life, and then wow, it's taken off since then. So just
yeah,
because the
incredible.
first blush doesn't fly right out the gate doesn't mean that later on. So just because we write a book and maybe it doesn't fly initially, maybe with some tweaking later on,
Yeah,
suddenly boom,
that's
we find our audience. Maybe
Yeah,
it's
I
just about
think you're
timing.
right there. That happens quite often where somebody's book will be out and it, does whatever, and then it sort of disappears, and then for whatever reason picks up steam later. And whether it's like something that's really topical or um, just get the right readers find it, and then it becomes something that's really important to them. So, yeah, I think we can't judge anything by like. Of course, we were talking earlier about promo and getting those reviews, and that's how a book gets like going and initially, but like the books doesn't go away. Once we put it out in the world, it's out in the world and we have to let it find its way too. And that might take some time. So
Exactly.
it's good.
If nothing else, maybe someone, the right person reads it, maybe they're inspired by something you wrote.
Yeah.
Same thing
Which
with music
actually,
artists.
absolutely. And I think that is so special. Like I've had people reach out to me who've read books I've written just out of the blue. And I'm always like shocked and delighted about how a book has touched them and moved them. And didn't I didn't understand that when I was writing it, like, or writing that scene or whatever. But people will say to me, for instance, I wish I'd talked to my father or my grandparent about such and such time in their life because now they're gone and I can't ask them, and I'm like, yeah, like I was really privileged to be able to have those conversations with my dad. And he was 84 before he wasn't able to answer those questions, right? Like yeah, so sometimes that individual reader, who, if it makes a difference for them, we've done our job.
Exactly right. Well, I can't think of a better way to end our time tonight. That on that positive note. Um, Before I let you go ahead and let's give the audience, if you have more than one website, but let's give them at least one of your websites.
Yes, yeah. They
Go
can
ahead and
find me, yeah, at lisakovala.com. So as you said, LIISAKOVALA.com. I'm also on Substack with Women Writing, so they can search for me there for the podcast and the newsletter and all the things. So yeah, and come find my AL Jensen Instagram page, people. It's pretty.
sounds good. Now, is there a link to that page from your website?
Yes, yeah, all the links are there. I'm not sure if this is the right decision, but I decided to have everything on one website. I have all my historical fiction, all my cozy stuff, and my book coaching. It's all under one roof. I thought, why make people go everywhere to find me? It's all in one place, and then they can link out to whatever they want. And because you know what, we do all the things, so let's just own it instead of like,
Different pages on the same website to me just makes
yeah,
good solid
yeah,
sense.
I think so too.
Simple. Keep
I
it
don't know.
simple.
We'll see. I may change my mind, but for
It
now
makes it
it works.
easier for you to find.
It's true. Yeah.
Yeah. But, well, I really appreciate you joining us tonight. Thank you for the wonderful conversation. Definitely please come back.
Thank you, Zoe. This was so fun. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, same here. Hang on after we finish recording. I have a little more to share with you. But thank you for
Good.
joining us. Please, if you liked our episode, share it, like our page, tell it, tell friends about it, help us grow. We really appreciate you watching and sharing with us. Please check out Lisa's website and just thank you for joining us.